All right, good evening. I want to call to order the February regular meeting of the Wyoming Board of Education. May I have a roll call?
Mrs. Broderick? Here. Mr. Feldmeyer?
Here.
Mr. Thomas?
Here.
Mrs. G?
Here.
Mrs. Zoller?
Here. Would you all please join me in the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you. Next item is to adopt the agenda. We have two changes that I want to bring to your attention. One is in the superintendent's report A4. We will pull that out and put it at the end of the superintendent's report. And in the superintendent's report, in letter B, we have an additional item to add to letter B. So we'll go ahead, we'll run through the superintendent's report, add that B, which is on your blue sheet, and then we will go ahead and work out of that one and then work through A4. All right?
Good.
All right. Next thing on my list is the
You
record.
want to have a motion to adopt it with those modifications?
So moved.
I didn't think you had.
Yes.
Second.
Second. Thank you.
And roll call.
Mr. Feldmeyer?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Mrs. G?
Yes.
Mrs. Zoller?
Yes.
Broderick?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next is recognition of the public. We have three names of three people with same topics. If you would like to come forward, Roswitha Wise is first on my list. If you would like to begin, followed by Emma Bernay and Sarah Ashwin.
I'm just gonna read what I wrote and that my 10th grader edited and redlined for me.
Yes.
Good evening, my name is Roswitha Wise and I'm a parent volunteer that has been working with the middle school drama program for the past 3 years. Aside from a director, the middle school program needs a second supplemental position to act as producer, organizer, facilitator, and as a general repository of information about how things work and where things are located. After COVID, there were 5 parents that worked to resurrect the drama program, first with the Cincinnati Children's Theater and now with Nancy Huey. There are 2 of us left and we both have 8th graders. Liz Galvin worked on putting job descriptions together for all the administrative volunteer roles, and I put together descriptions for all the backstage volunteer jobs. I've also now added checklists with need-by dates for all of those roles. In 2022, I fixed the accessibility, storage, and safety issues we had. We now use rechargeable batteries. I converted what was once a workshop in the stairwell between the green room and stage into a closet, and organized and culled costumes and props to eliminate the hazards and accessibility issues in the green room costume area and in the stairwell. I cleaned out the box office so that we had a place to store large set pieces that we'd like to retain, and have created a tool room with basic tools. However, the program needs someone to oversee everything that occurs behind the scenes and to provide continuity, oversight, and direction for how to maintain what the drama program currently has and to keep it within the space that we are allotted. It is sometimes easier to buy or build new than work with existing pieces because it takes time to assess what currently exists. And each time a new person comes into the role, whether it is for sets, props, costumes, they will have to figure out what is there. Nancy is doing a fantastic job directing, but there is more that goes into putting on a show than just directing the cast. We've got kids running the sound and lights, helping with costumes, props, and sets. They are also backstage during the show, moving set pieces around and making sure everything is where it needs to be. We routinely have somewhere between 50 to 60 kids in the program for each production. That is a lot of kids and a lot of different tasks for one person to be responsible for. It's the equivalent of asking your offensive line coach to also be responsible for the defensive line, special teams, and cheerleading. We are now using Saturdays as construction days to work on sets, props, and costumes so that we can maximize the number of parent volunteers that are able to participate. But it only works if Nancy is available on a Saturday. If she can't make it, we would have to track down someone else with badge access that is willing to give up 4 to 5 hours on a Saturday without compensation, since school guidelines, rules, and protocols dictate that we cannot be there without a badged employee present. So either we have to find someone that's willing to give up that time, or the school's going to have to arrange and pay for someone to be there. Nancy was tasked to make productions revenue neutral, and we were finally able to make that happen for our play in the fall, Twice Upon a Time. We actually made some money that we can carry over to Willy Wonka Jr. And we should be revenue neutral for Wonka as well. But this is only happening because Nancy and I are working as a team to plan out each production. The budgeting and planning starts way before there is a cast, crew, and parent volunteers to draw from. And each year the parent volunteer pool changes. And while we have parents volunteering, it is difficult to find someone that is always willing to tackle the big jobs for sets and costumes. We can find people willing to help, but rarely find someone to facilitate. Every year we are looking to find replacements, and every year we are reinventing the wheel. In asking for this second role, we are not doing away with the need for parent volunteers. We still need parent volunteers to chaperone build days, backstage, on show days, and to help with publicity, building the set, making the costumes, props, etc. But we do need someone that can oversee everything, not cast related, so there is continuity from year to year. We don't want the program to one year have a great set, but no costumes. At the high school, you have 3 supplemental positions for the musical: a director, a musical orchestra director, and a musical vocal director. Nancy is doing all those roles, and her current percentage does not reflect her true hours and work she has put into the program. She is overseeing a program that has more kids and has a higher visibility to the community than other programs. A vast majority of the current sports programs, even though they are small, are being covered by 2 supplementals or at a higher rate by 1 person. For instance, golf and cheerleading and weightlifting. Her supplemental percentage for putting on a fall play is the same as middle school yearbook, and her musical percentage is the same as high school science Olympiad. I don't want to take anything away from those programs, but this middle school drama program is open to all grade levels and provides an opportunity for kids to express themselves on stage or participate in producing the show, and is much larger than the programs that I mentioned previously. In order for the drama program to grow and thrive, additional funding for a second position needs to be allocated. The high school's production of Mamma Mia was a resounding success, and I believe there were 9 freshmen in the cast, and they came from our last year's productions. In order to have a strong high school program, we need a strong middle school program. We've also had the community support and have been building attendance to pre-COVID levels, and we're now on average at 77% capacity for each show. When I previously asked for a second supplemental position, I was told we never had one, which is not 100% correct. When Spring Pillow ran the program, she split her supplemental with someone that managed all things technical and backstage. So the school at one time had a director for the cast and a technical director / producer. If you believe that's the right way to go for someone to split a supplemental, then I can provide the hours that I've put in to producing each show so that you can adjust Nancy's percentage to something that could be split. And my husband wanted me to note that I am not looking for a job. I just wanted to see the drama code program continue to flourish and maintain the level that it is now. Thank you.
Thank you. Emma?
Yes, hi, sorry, I don't have something prepared, so I'll be very brief, but I'm here in support of Roswitha Wise on behalf of Wyoming Drama. I would like to support everything that she just said, very eloquently with all of the detail. I completely support. My son Leo, who's also here as a Boy Scout, has participated in Wyoming Drama for the last 2 years. When I was at a student of Wyoming, there was no middle school drama program, and I have been blown away by the quality and effort that Nancy and Roswitha put in, and the efforts of the students. I really cannot imagine the program continuing at this level without Roswitha or someone who can do her job. It boggles my mind how many hours she puts in, from creating the costumes and directing the sets to putting candy canes in the makeup boxes of the students just before the fall play, so they can have something a little extra. I hear about her constantly from Leo. And so I'd just like to say that the job that she is doing for volunteer hours is staggering, and I would fully support a supplemental position for her or someone who can do her job. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Emma. I have to pass Sarah.
Sarah.
I also do not have anything prepared, but I'm here also to support Rosita and the drama program. My son, Jonah, has also participated in the last 2 years as well as my, son Isaac, behind the scenes for tech program, to the extent that he thinks he may want a career in technical lighting. And that just really goes to show what kind of effort the volunteers have put in there. I've personally watched Rosita. I mean, she's not kidding when it's a second job. Like, the effort she has put in is incredible, and the program would not be where it is without her and Nancy. So yeah, I'm here on support for that, for creating a position to help support that. I'm also here, somewhat in, representing WCIA, Wyoming Community Action. We know we're going into a hiring sequence here, and just wanted to emphasize the importance of, diversity in that hiring process. And examining what that hiring process looks like, perhaps examining any potential bias in that program process. And just emphasizing the importance that diversity has on all kids. It's good for my kids to see that, like, they're going to be more well-rounded and respectful human beings, if that's part of, our teacher and staff. Conclusion. So that's it.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. That concludes recognition of the public, and we will act upon, as a matter of fact, I think. We've got, two former middle school drama directors sitting, producers, directors sitting here this evening. All right, thank you. We'll move on to a special presentation. This is the first presentation from the CAC. The first group will be sharing with us tonight about student internships and student career partnerships. And I know you're going to introduce yourself, so I'm going to just say go.
I'm Amanda Kaizawa. I am somewhat new to Wyoming community, so we moved here in 2019. I have 3 kids, a 5th grader, a 2nd grader, and a kindergartner. And we're really excited to talk about student internships and career partnerships.
Joe Brinkman. I've got 2 girls, 2 angels. Callie in 9th grade, Jules in 5th grade. Moved to Wyoming officially in 2013, although I've been around for much longer than that. I went to grade school at St. James, which is right across the street. So Wyoming's always been a part of, my life.
I'm Allison Juki, and I am a Wyoming alum, married to a Wyoming alum. And we have 3 children, 1 at Hilltop, 1 in the middle school, and 1 in the high school. And we just moved back to Wyoming after being gone since graduating in the summer. So.
So yeah, these are the questions we were asked to look at and answer. Number 1, best practices in developing a high school student internship or career partnership program. Number 2, what resources are available to partner with in Wyoming and throughout the Cincinnati region? Number 3, what scheduling structures or teacher assignments allow greatest flexibility for a program like this? Number 4, how do we maximize our partnerships in supporting this endeavor? So methodology, how do we go about this? Pretty simple. Number 1, informal conversations with faculty, staff members at Wyoming High School. Number 2, attendance at the Business Advisory Council. This is part of Hamilton County's Educational Service Center. They have quarterly meetings. Number 3, research and scope with teachers, administrators from other schools, both public and private. And number 4, examine a variety of high school campus. So some background in terms and assumptions, like this slide was added after the meeting last week, because there's lots of acronyms when you get this kind of stuff. This was news to me, certainly. Ohio's Department of Education and Workforce, which is a fairly new DEW or DO. And a subnote to that is a new report card component that may not go into effect until 2023-24 at the earliest, possibly later. It's around college, career, workforce, and military readiness. I think that's, one of the major drivers behind this conversation. I think Dr. Watley has said, we won't be penalized if we don't implement this, but it would be good for the district if we did look into implementing some kind of program, so that we could meet this, full board card component. BAC, Business Advisory Council. Again, this is a consortium of schools and industry leaders working together to prepare students for the workforce. It's part of the Hamilton County. They meet quarterly. And that's good to know the Wyoming demographics, majority college prep, with some students attending Scarlet Oaks or taking vocational route post high school. And you'll see later on, that plays a big part in determining what kind of program we might want to implement here, is determining what kind of students are available, what their interests and goals would be. So I'll hand it off to.
When we're looking at best practices, really the there's a myriad of models for student internships and career partnerships. And really the best practice really depends on that model. So when we look at the best practices, this is a mishmash of best practices in internships and partnerships, and just in best practice in teaching. First of all, we mentioned that it's important that students are doing meaningful work. They're not just running copies, right? And it's preferably related to the curriculum. When applicable, they're paid. This is a department hired by the Department of Labor, that if students are doing something that is replicating what their employees are doing, then they must be paid. Students must have accountability to both the school and to their employer. Students are provided with ample time to reflect on their experience. We know that that learning comes not just from an experience itself, but from reflecting on that experience. I failed to mention that I am an educator of 19 years. And so this is something that I've really spent a lot of time thinking about. It's so important that students have time to reflect on their experience as well as experience their internship itself. It's important that students present a deliverable to the school as part of that accountability piece, whether it's a presentation, it's a paper, it could come in a variety of forms, but it's again, tying back to that accountability that students are really benefiting from their experience. And also, we can't forget about the teachers. Teachers have to be involved in the process, especially if one of the main goals is that they can provide students with an imagination or a vision for where we're paid to go in the future. We looked at so many models for internship or career partnership programs, from I would say very intrusive to the high school schedule to not intrusive. Starting with I guess inversely, starting with a 1 day or 2 day job shadowing. And I think that you have printed out a whole chart of various schools that we spoke with, that where all of these models are represented. So and also their pros and cons, like the benefits, the challenges to each model. But with the 1 day job shadowing program, students can really get an in-depth view of whatever career they're seeing. But maybe a little bit more difficult to connect with a curriculum or to have a deliverable. But there's a 2 to 4 week internship, summer internship, that will not at all interfere with the high school schedule. Another Madeira does this. The University of Milwaukee, where I'm for many years, also does this. We also have an internship as an independent course. This is actually what Wyoming has done in the past, and has done in there's been a few iterations of this, but this is kind of what we know and what we kind of fall back to, I think, as a district, when we think of what does it look like to have a student internship. There are really wonderful pros to this. And scheduling has come up again and again as a con to this, or as an obstacle thing. Another opportunity is to have an entrepreneurship or innovation course, with full class field trips. Right now, Madeira is doing this. You have to have a super motivated teacher to have this kind of a model that works really well. It's one of the most desirable courses right now at Madeira offers. There's capstones, which is also either a year-long or a semester-long course, where students can study one topic and in depth, and then rather than going to class, they can go to individual to see to shadow different careers, or as we've seen in, for example, the Paul Christopher Ray has internships and career experiences required as an integral part of their high school experience. We've mentioned some obstacles. Honestly, first, I feel like the first step, if we are going to enter into something like this, is just identifying the candidates. Who are we trying to target? We have to start with the students if we want to make this meaningful. So are we targeting, if we're looking at Wyoming's demographics, over 90% of students in Wyoming going to college. So are we identifying high flyers who are wanting to have a resume, who are wanting to have an in-depth experience? Are we identifying kids who may fly under the radar, who are more high support students, who may need a little extra push and a vision for what can come after high school? So we really have to start with that, and really everything kind of flows from that. Scheduling has been has come up again and again when talking to teachers as an option. Yes. Late start, early release as possibilities, but that means that all core classes would have to be kind of scrunched into the middle bells, which presents a true difficulty in scheduling. Accountability is part of the student, and in some ways the teacher or our program in general, and personnel who's gonna run it and who's going to make sure that all these things are happening and running smoothly.
Partnerships. So when we looked at the overall program, we really feel like there are three main partnerships that need to be running well in order for this program to succeed. So one would be with the student population. So whether that's the high achieving students, the kind of high flyers, if it's students who maybe require higher support, or if it's students who maybe would traditionally go to Scarlet Oaks, maybe there's a way for them to do kind of some of the things they're doing there through this kind of internship program. So having a partnership with those students would be crucial. Also a partnership with the teachers and administrators. Personnel is going to be really important. So having someone to oversee this program, both to roll on students, to pair them up with different employers, to kind of just make sure everything's running smoothly and there's accountability on both sides. Having a dedicated resource is going to be really important. And then having someone to kind of manage the employer or external parties partnership. So utilizing that BAC, they meet, as Joe mentioned, they meet quarterly. So having someone kind of go to those meetings and figure out the best way for us to be able to utilize that resource, maybe partnering with different higher education institutions. I work at Miami, so I'm very familiar with a lot of the programs they have there, such as CQ Stay and Girls Who Code, but there's a ton of opportunities to kind of link into those different programs. If students are interested in kind of maybe something where you're having trouble finding a specific employer to partner with, there's a lot of different programs that higher education institutions offer for high school students. And then other local organizations or programs. I think every organization and different kind of industry is looking for a way to kind of grow their pipeline of students. And so a lot of different organizations do programming for high school students. So this would be another way to kind of link students in with different organizations or programs if they're looking for a more specific type of experience. And then, so our findings, why should the board consider doing something like this? One, it's a really great collaborative, innovative way for students to get a very applicable experiential learning opportunity. It's also a report card component. So we talked a little bit about that. So kind of twofold, it's good for students and also something that would help the district as well. Who would be identifying your target students, finding a program coordinator and then partnering with the BAC or other various business partners that would be involved. And then the how would be identifying those logistics. So which model do you want to go with? That may change depending on who your target students are. And then working through those obstacles that we identified. Some will be more prevalent, obviously, depending on the model as well. So it kind of all flows from the students, the model to obstacles. And then our recommendations and conclusions. So we definitely feel like this is something worth considering going forward. Identifying the target student population is going to be critical, not only just for figuring out what model is going to work for them, but also numbers. How many students is this going to impact, or how many students would want to take advantage of this type of program? Working through the program goals, mobilizing the appropriate resources. So if that's the coordinator, and then working to engage the strategic community organizations like the BAC or those other various employers and external parties. So, any questions that we can answer? Sure.
I'm just curious, somebody mentioned a couple times Madeira doing some things. Was there something in particular that you liked that they were doing as an example of how it worked in the student's day? Like, how did you see that working?
And I do think that I misspoke one time. I think I mentioned Madeira doing something that's actually Indian Hill.
Oh,
Indian
okay.
Hill does a 2 to 4 week, summer
Okay.
program, whereas Madeira does, an entrepreneurship and innovation course. And it's a, like I said, it's kind of a very, coveted course that everyone kind of wants to get into. Right now, and they come up with a business model. It's very applicable. Like it really, it seems like the kids really feel like what they do matters. And then they take full class field trips to visit businesses that are doing something similar to what business they have decided to run. So nothing in particular that stands out about Madeira over these other ones, except for that it's a very similar demographic.
And size.
And size,
Yeah, when you talked about the extra personnel needed, that sometimes we're hampered by.
Yeah, and I should mention too that like most of the schools that we, and districts that we saw, if they had a really robust program like this, I would say that they had a person who was running it, and 50% or more of their position was running this program. That's something to keep in mind.
You know how frequent or is it like more like once a month to a business, or every couple of weeks? I was trying to figure out how many they would see in a given year.
For Madeira,
But it's entrepreneurship.
yeah, I don't know about that. Yeah. I do know that it's a whole class versus like a capstone where a student would go as an individual to shadow. Yeah.
Amanda, when you were talking about your connections with the university and the programs that are there, is there any possibility of a partnership with high school kids and something like that?
Yeah, so all the programs I mentioned on the slide are targeted for high school. So like the CQ Day is for careers involving quantitative skills. And it's just a day where we pay for students to be bused to campus, and we spend the day with them talking about different careers they can get involved with that have quantitative skills involved. So data science, engineering, accounting, finance, economics. So they spend the day kind of going to different presentations and doing different activities to learn more about those different career opportunities. Same thing with Girls Who Code, that's targeted towards high school students, and even they have some middle school chapters where college students and professors will work with those students to teach them coding skills, but then what they can do with those coding skills in the workforce. So there's a lot of different programs like that target students. It's more of kind of the 1 day type activities, not necessarily like would span the whole year or a whole semester. But if you have a student who's maybe more, you could do it kind of different ways. So if you have a more exploratory program where students are trying to get a multitude of experiences, something like that may work better, where they can go to a few different things and get a few different opportunities to explore different career options if they don't have one specific goal in mind or one specific route that they might want to pursue.
Okay.
This is very interesting to me. When I was in high school in Indianapolis, we had a program similar, and we went to like couple hours in a day every couple of weeks or whatever. And I don't know how they managed the schedule of it, but they're two different things. One of them was meteorology, which I knew pretty early I didn't want to do. That was great. The other was like medical stuff, and I also knew I didn't want to do that, but it was really great.
Yeah.
I think the piece about, for me, the entrepreneurship class is something I personally get really interested about, because when we think about what the qualifications are to teach that class, it could be something that leverages somebody of a background very different than just kind of education in doing the class, but then the places that the student have the opportunity to go could also leverage people in our community who are doing some things kind of in the space in addition to others. And so I'm trying to get a sense for load and how heavy it is based on how many you would do. If you do one once a month, it'd be different than every couple of weeks, but that was pretty energizing. The other thing is, I was in high school thinking about going to college and get a job, in a company. But the idea of the entrepreneurial thing, kind of, it can help stretch people to think differently about the ways you can make a great living in the world. And so it could be that many different kids would benefit from that stretched experience. Students who may not be super high flying in our academic setting because their orientation or wiring is very different, and or people who are doing really great in school. So I'm personally very energized about the possibility of some of that.
And also, I'd like to add, as we're thinking about something like this, obviously those business opportunities are really important, but like my background was communications and university communications. I think about arts organizations and nonprofit organizations. I can think of parents in our community that head up the art museum, and that, there are lots of areas outside of just business opportunities that kids don't necessarily get exposed to in terms of an internship or shadowing, but we have lots of resources within our own community. And I'm not sure if you guys did talk much to the Alumni Association here, or at some point I remember hearing there was a list.
They do have a list, I heard.
Somebody keeping, or maybe we even had a list
We
of
talked about it.
people
last
with
week, our
certain
CNC.
skills or.
Career Corral. When Career Corral started,
Mhm.
we worked with the alumni to get a list of people that we could coordinate with to bring in expertise when we have career corrals about certain career fields or thematic opportunities.
The Business Advisory Council too, right now is creating a network. And a portal essentially that lists, I think it's like,
About
4,000 opportunities for students to connect with in like a multitude of different fields. So it's something that they're really focusing on.
So not necessarily just for profits per se.
Yeah,
or-
they're nonprofits.
And I like that, thanks for adding like the 6 different types, just so when you really are thinking about like, what does it mean? What would we want? And how does that look a little different? That's just helpful to see and kind of dive into. How'd you all just choose which ones you looked at? Out of curiosity.
And part of it was who we met at the BAC.
Okay.
Part was my own experience,
Yeah.
and my school is
Okay.
listed in there. And just as we heard about these different models, just kind of, they fell into various categories. So, yeah, conversations.
In the programs where it's a capstone, where I presume those programs for all students in the school to be a part of.
Not necessarily. So
Okay.
the Hawaii one that's mentioned in there, I believe it's for all students. But at University School of Milwaukee, it's an elective for students in 8th grade and 12th grade, and then all students in 4th grade actually do a capstone and meet with mentors within the building. So,
Think about.
4th grade capstone is the only thing.
Interesting.
It's probably different in the high school one.
I know.
It might be just.
Capstone project.
That would be really cool. My son did it about Joe Nuxall when he was in 4th grade, and we lived in Milwaukee because there was a Cincinnati tie, and he interviewed Kim Nuxall. And when we came here for spring break, he went to visit the Miracle League, and so he talked all about Joe Nuxall and presented to his peers and to Joe Nuxall and the board of the Miracle League. Yeah.
Interesting to think beyond just high school, sometimes for it, like how could it be woven in with different capacities for kids? Great opportunities. Other questions?
Thank you for your time, effort, your thoughtfulness, and researching and presenting this, so very effective. On the last page with the recommendations and the conclusion, you mentioned the need to identify target student populations and program goals. Are there any tangible steps you saw the programs of the schools take to do that type of assessment or measurement? Just, obviously our student interest, the level thereof and the nature thereof, but in some ways the students may not know what they don't know, like in terms of what their interest could be, or it's just not on the radar. Anything that you saw or read about what they're doing to do that measurement?
I think that honestly, when I think about our recommendations, it's truly a framework. It's saying we have to start with students and what students' needs are, like who has the highest need for something like this? And once we identify the who, and maybe it's everyone, if that's possible. But once we start with the who, then that flows to the why. They're kind of intertwined, and then from there we go to the how. Yeah, but when I think about this, I would say honestly, the first step would be to talk to some of the teachers who are teaching or who are advising the students that we mentioned, and see what their needs are, and say, like, do you think that this would be something that would be helpful to this group of students? And then go from there. Yeah, I would also advise against going all in. I feel like right, or starting small, starting with the 1 day or the summer internships, and then from there build.
John, you mentioned, students sometimes just not knowing what they don't know, right? So we have some good data that actually it's going to be starting with our sixth graders, actually this spring all the way through 12th grade. They're in U Science. So U Science looks at not only like student voice, like I give you a survey of what you're interested in, but it also couples it with your interest and your kind of academic or ability. So your prowess versus your interest. And I think those are really good conversations where you can see where those things intersect and say, hey, how can we bring both of those, your kind of talents and your interests, to fruition in one thing? But it's really interesting to have that data starting to sixth grade to see those trends, but to also see those changes after certain courses or certain experiences. And I think that could help steer kids, besides just a random kind of survey of whatever your interest, to kind of help steer kids in maybe appropriate path.
Thank you. Excellent.
To me, one of the beauties of the different models you looked at is it's possible that we wouldn't have to build every one of the things or borrow or connect to things that already exist. Right? So the 2 to 4 week internships, CIBI is a program where career in business and industry or whatever that exists for 8 to 10 week kind of internships for high school students, and having access around what some of the opportunities are and making kids aware, is a way that you can kind of just connect people who have some interest in some things we don't have to build. We don't have to create that necessarily. So if you think about where we can invest resources here, thinking about, what things would be most fruitful, it wouldn't be that all of them had to be created by us.
We actually, even part of the conversation was considering, and John, I think you brought this up, what are the occupations that come within the school district? Then we can look at internal and even, and look to our city officials and if there's some interest there to start smaller in a manageable way as potential opportunities, which we talked about in some ways.
The Madeira thing, I think when you think about starting with students, like what do they ask for, what do they want? I think looking at the other way, you could say, if you built something that was that, there would be a number of kids who would say, oh my gosh, like, wow, I'm very interested, as an elective that you manage to schedule on, that kind of thing. And so that's hard to do. It's not easy unless you have somebody just sitting around with a lot of time on their hands and the skills and all that stuff. But if you think about some of the capabilities in the district and other different ways, that one particularly was interesting to me, which doesn't mean much more than this conversation, but as we talk through what do we do, what do we get after, and what things we invest in, that one is pretty interesting.
Also just kind of surveying teachers to see who might have a lot of enthusiasm for something like this.
Awesome.
Great job.
It was great.
Thank you so much.
I'm not sure who's working with the CAC that's looking at a high bar for the next presentation. Yeah.
So this year's PAC is, there are a couple of them sitting.
You understand the level we're talking.
It's been a wonderful group, and we have had some great conversations.
Great.
And then as they go off into their groups, it's like, I'm feeling left out
Yeah, I
sometimes.
know,
It's like,
I know.
they go off.
Can't be in all three groups, right?
No, and it's been great, and, I really appreciate the work you've done, because this is a terrific framework for the things we know we need to be doing. Yeah. So, well done, thank you. All right, now, the next exciting thing on our list, and I am slightly kidding. We are reviewing our bylaws, and, tonight we're gonna go through our bylaws.
Very good.
Did you?
I just, no.
I know, we're like.
Yeah, it's,
Just to make
Yeah,
it.
you're
right. It's, it doesn't get any more exciting. So basically, I thought I would go through them. Stop me if there's something you want to especially, go into. There's really only one that I want to actually get deep into. If we start with, 0121 about, basically the authority of the board rests with our responsibility to, make decisions on the schools. Yes, is the doors been opened?
Oh, that's freezing, so the AC
I'm
on.
not touching it because I always make it sweltering, so I'm just gonna.
Nobody's.
sit
fault.
right- sit-
Nobody's.
I know we're like.
Nobody knows, and we're not gonna put the
All right,
Ready to
sorry,
sweat.
Jeannie. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, go ahead, we're now.
0122 board powers. The board serves as a corporate body with the right to sue or be sued, to do contracts or be part of contracts, to deal with property, and to hold property in trust, money in trust. So that's that financial part of us as a formal corporate body. Obviously, all of this is connected to the state statutes and has to be within the framework of the law. 0122.1, the members' powers are that the members don't have powers. It's kind of the way to look at that. Individual board members do not have powers. They act as one unit. And with the exception of a few things that the law allows, but basically they operate as a whole group and perform together. 0123, the code of ethics. That was the one thing that I thought probably was worth us looking into with a little more depth. Basically, the code of ethics talks about honesty, trust, fairness, and integrity, which I think we all know what those mean, but sometimes we've seen outside of Wyoming, not within our group, but we've seen some interesting sidelines. The very first thing, and I noticed in this code of ethics that it comes around and repeats. The one thing that does repeat a couple of times is the idea that our decisions have to be, they have to look at the educational welfare of all students. Yeah. Not that it should never go off that roadway. There's conversation about the confidentiality of privileged information. Once more, a comment about individual board members have no authority to speak or act for the board. We act as one unit. Individual board members work as a team. Our authority on occasion can be delegated to the superintendent, and I added in superintendent and staff, but I would want to say superintendent and or treasurer as we move to get the work of the to get the work of the school going. Ongoing communications, we all know must constantly be happening. And this one particularly affected me recently, to render all decisions based on the available facts and independent judgment, rather than succumbing to the influence of individuals or special interest groups. And that's an important thing. There are some items that board members need to be prepared for before they come to a meeting, being informed about the issues that will be discussed and improving their boardmanship by studying educational issues. and being part of the school program. There's also some concern here in the Code of Ethics about conflict of interest. Obviously, board members cannot be employed by the Board of Education. By the school district, sorry. They need to cooperate with other board members and administrators to establish a system of regular and impartial evaluations and avoid conflicts of interest or the appearance of conflicts of interest. In addition, the Board of Education believes that each member should agree to work cooperatively and effectively with others and conform his or her behavior to the following code of collectively and individually agreeing to, and those codes kind of, this is where the repeat comes, because once more, we're back to the number one item. It needs to be, the board's primary focus has to be the best interest of all students. And then we talk about, strive sincerely to build better relationships with one another, with the superintendent, and I added in with the treasurer, and set goals for the superintendent, and we set goals for the treasurer. There are information, the rest of that code talks about how we prepare for our meetings, the demeanor that is expected at the meetings, how we act in support of the administration and the laws and policies and administrative guidelines in place. And we all call it, don't get into the weeds, but the business of the board acts as the, I kind of think of it as we're people who are up there at the top looking down and the detailed work. Yeah, it's like a drone. It's very, I think, you know, that's what we like.
You said it. We're talking about being on the balcony, like being on the balcony versus being on the dance floor.
Oh, yes, with a drone, if you come down too fast and too steep, you, that's everything up, you know, and that's like you're.
Drones are used to bomb stuff.
Also just see.
And
All right.
I knew we were.
I know.
Okay,
I'm sorry,
yes,
we're
no.
gonna just add treasurer to
Yeah, I
line,
made
is
a
that what
note.
we're saying, like, wherever it says superintendent,
Yes.
there's a few other
In
ones.
the top
just
section
for
up and in
superintendent.
the bottom section, E and down.
right,
We'll put those on our running list. actually.
okay.
What's that?
What was the top section?
Talk about evaluation
Is that,
Just
123 is
like,
divided into
yeah,
two
like,
sections.
okay, that's a whole different conversation.
You know what?
Yeah, I got that.
I haven't seen it yet.
There's an A through O, and then there's an E through R.
Okay, yeah,
And wherever it says superintendent, just says superintendent and treasurer.
all right, so that's what we're
Alright.
adding.
So then if I go into 0131, that's about the legislative mandates of a Board of Education and what we can do, obviously following the law of Ohio, but there are things we can add or change. 0131.3 are technical corrections. In that, I thought this was interesting because I'm wondering in terms of some of the ways we do our policies, when it talks about when you're making if it's a grammar error, if it's a change, if you're not changing the feeling of the bylaw and that's staying in place, you can do it by voice vote and don't have to do the 30-day reading. And I wondered if that was something we ought to reevaluate with the policy committee, when the policy committee meets, when, you know, how sometimes it's just a language change, it's a pronoun change, it doesn't really change. If maybe we ought to pull those out, because in it, since we use a consent agenda, we pop those into a consent agenda and just, okay, then we move them on. As opposed to new policies that would have to have that 30-day reading. That makes sense. All right, 0132, the executive is to appoint and support a superintendent who acts as kind of the CEO of the district. 0133, judicial, we have jurisdiction over disputes or controversies, and we may hold impartial and fair hearings. 0141 says they have to be 5-foot board members. And 0141.2 is once more a repeat that was also in the ethics about a conflict of interest. And that's kind of as simple as just follow the money. A board member would not take payment or take payment for his or her business while serving on the board. All right, anybody have a question, comment?
Nope.
All right, I'm gonna divide up the next group and I'll send it, if I go in alphabetical order, I'll send some to you. Sure. I'll let Kara take over next time. Great, thank you. All right, let's move on to board committee reports. The finance committee, do you want to recap since there's not an actual meeting to report?
We had our last meeting on February first, which was after the January board meeting. We did not meet today because we just had our meeting on February first. We reviewed the salary benefit analytic, which we do at every meeting. We also reviewed the fiscal year 23 audit report, which I think I sent that to the board. We received our audit report. Our audit has been completed. Every year we're audited by a public accounting firm. We received an unmodified opinion, which is the best opinion. So no citations, no material instances. So a clean audit opinion. So happy to report that. We also took a look at tax rates and the impact of House Bill 920. The tax rates were released and, as everyone knows, bills were issued and at this point, hopefully have been paid. If not, they're past due. So this is a reminder to pay your taxes if you haven't paid them yet. So the impact of 920, of course, we talked about this at almost at every meeting. Values go up, rates go down. Of course, we saw significant increase in values, 30% increase in residential values here in Wyoming. And so values go up and the rates went down. And so we looked at the rates for both bond, PI, and the general fund. Looking at those individually so that we understand how the bond rate was impacted, how we understood how the PI rate was impacted, and understood how the general operating was impacted. In fact, we looked at them by levy. And so, we have a 1998 bond issue that was voted in at 8.2. We're collecting 3.36. We have a 2012 bond issue that was voted at 4.79, collecting 2.64. Again, values go up, the rates go down. PI levy, the same, and then a number of operating levies, the most recent one in 2017, voted in at 8, currently collecting 5.41. So we took a look at all of that. We also took a look at tax rates across Hamilton County and did a little comparison of school districts, and then spent some time reviewing our January income tax collection, which we received our quarterly disbursement in January, and I think that was also the topic of our very first Finance Friday. So hopefully you're following along on Finance Fridays, which is a new initiative just to send out bite-sized pieces of financial information so that you can stay connected in little bitty ways of important financial things that are happening across the district.
Thank you. I appreciate those finance meetings. And because school finance is a maze.
It is a maze.
To work your way through. All right, the Citizens Advisory Committee, obviously they've made their presentation. Next month will be artificial intelligence, AI. It promises to be exciting.
Yeah, the next meeting for the CAC is on March 12th. And again, AI will be shared with the CAC committee in itself and then brought to the March board meeting. Just highlight great research. We talk about that being a research arm for the Board of Education and to provide information to help make future decisions. Couldn't get a better example of that than what you saw tonight.
Absolutely. Belonging Committee, they did not meet, correct?
We did not meet. Our next meeting is on April 10th. Our Belonging and Inclusion Collaborative, which is pulling together tomorrow. So we'll be meeting with a group. That'll be a virtual meeting. And one of the big topics will be really just looking at the goal setting process for next year and how do we carry out the goals of the culture and climate pillar and focus on belonging, and what are the ways that we can work together within the Belonging and Inclusion Collaborative itself, but also across the entire district to provide actions that support belonging. So it's really going to be how do we focus on actions and how do we hold ourselves accountable for those actions.
All right, thank you. Community engagement.
Never know, is it easier there's so many things coming, and then I think Susie does awesome at, First, do you want to go first?
We've had some great things
Yeah.
happen. Before we look forward, maybe we.
Well, I would
can
just
talk about-
connect to, was it last Thursday, our high school students, put on just an incredible demonstration of knowledge and talent, with the Black History Month, assembly celebration at the high school. Student run, student driven, student implemented, incredible. And it was a focus on fashion and fashion throughout history and the influence of, the African-American, population on fashion. It's just absolutely incredible. It was exciting. Again, a learning opportunity, a great way for students to showcase their own talents. Even pulled in alumni, Wyoming alumni into the experience. I don't know if you want to speak to that.
That's
Lisa.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, Tony Jones from the class of 2009, who is an entrepreneur, was there, and so he took questions and talked about being part of the team that keeps Black-owned outerwear going downtown. And then Patrice Chambers, for 2020 graduate, came back and was talking about her experiences in modeling. So it was fantastic. And they had great exhibits outside too, that you could see when people were going in on different facets, and a lot of work went into that, and it was fantastic.
So just to connect the belonging committee to Veronica Robinson, you might know her as B-Rob, and several students from ACES are going to be coming to our Belonging and Inclusion Collaborative meeting. And they're going to be talking about the assembly and how it was put together and how they really connected with their own passion to provide such a great opportunity for everybody. So we're excited to have them as guests. Other things.
Well, I'm looking forward now, I guess, more than looking back, because like, I know it's concert time, and I bet Susie will have more dates. Okay, because that's like, I know it's time for strings, and then like all of those are starting tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
So those start tomorrow, strings and choir and band concerts, and then WSMA is having their event on Saturday. That's already the second.
Yeah.
Right, Saturday, so tickets are still available for that, and I know there was a link to purchase tickets, but now they've got awesome, like okay, because I said some of the business owners were here today, where they're gonna be walking around, the Black and Co. and the sticker shop and Kindred Flow and B, right?
Yeah.
And the Civic Center too, right?
Civic Center.
Civic Center, yeah. So I feel like that's like what's on my brain is that stuff.
Well, the musical was
The music
wonderful.
was, yeah, that was amazing.
And I don't think we've had a board meeting.
So where were we last time?
It was terrific.
Yeah.
And today I noticed that there are little flyers all over the Willy Wonka's
Mm.
tickets go on sale in another week.
Oh, right.
And they're little flyers with the QR code to tell you where to get your tickets.
Yeah.
Well, and I think it's because of the pandemic, it's been a number of years since the high school had a musical. So, hats off to the kids and, our director, Annie Elliott, who is an alum and was very humble. I was expecting to see her on stage and everybody clapping, and she said, no, it's about the kids. But, she did an amazing job to, bring those NYU skills in acting to Wyoming, and, the kids were amazing, and many of them, I had never been in anything.
Right? I was gonna say,
So
first
it
time
was
experience for many of the students.
You did amazing.
So
Like,
I-
first time
It's
experience, like.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And I think all shows were, like, maybe that Friday night show was, I hear the most enthusiastic, but I know all three shows were pretty
That's good.
gung ho and excited to have that.
You were rowdy.
It was.
That's great.
Ready to do Mamma
Just
Mia.
the numbers. So
Yeah.
the audience was exciting to see. Right?
Yeah.
It was really fun to see it
Yeah.
build up. Yeah, it was great.
All right.
And more.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Why do I?
So we've got, in addition to some athletics, we've got basketball and wrestling continuing, but we've got lacrosse, baseball, softball starting between now and our next board meeting. Some of the concerts, we are in concert season. So like Heather was saying, tomorrow, that's 5th and 6th grade strings concert at 6:30. 7th and 8th grade strings is at 8 o'clock. Both are at the high school. We've got a choir concert on Wednesday this week, 7:30, February 28th at the high school. Then Thursday, we've got kindergarten information night for 24-25. So that's a very important meeting for everybody who's that we're welcoming in the fall for kindergarten. And then also, so that's at 6:30 at Hilltop School on Thursday, February 29th.
later that night, 7:30 high school band concert at the high school. And then this weekend on Friday night, we have the 7th and 8th grade dance. That's 6:30 at the middle school. Tickets are $6 and available to purchase this week during lunch. Saturday is the Wyoming School Music Association Winter Music Festival. Doors open at the Civic Center at 6:30. Performances of our student musicians start at 7. It's new venues this year, so it's kind of our block here. Then they'll go to the different businesses. WSMA is a wonderful partner in supporting music programs across Wyoming City Schools. And you can get your tickets now at wyomingmusic.org. And then we got Monday, March 4th, and I think we'll talk about this more with the facilities committee report next, but we have our second community forum for the Wyoming Primary Facilities Planning. That's at 6:30 at the high school. This does replace the community conversation that was originally scheduled at March 13th. So that's just for people who are still looking at the paper calendar. There's a change there. So, Tuesday, March 5th, we've got Wyoming High School Orchestra Concert, 7:30 at the high school. On Wednesday, we've got middle school band concerts at the high school. 5th and 6th grade at 7, 7th and 8th grade at 8. Later in the month, we've got 4th grade music concert on Monday, March 11th. That's 6:30 at the high school. That takes us to our Board of Education planning meeting here Tuesday morning, March 12th, 7:30 a.m. And then we're back to more concerts. Thursday, March 14th at the high school, we've got 5th and 6th grade choir at 7, 7th and 8th grade choir at 8. The week of March 18th is the Scholastic Book Fair at the middle school. So middle school families can look forward to that. On Tuesday, March 19th at the high school, we have the Wyoming Primary School's 3rd grade music performance at 6:30 p.m. That I think is Disney. It's a Disney theme. That sounds fantastic in little voices. And then Thursday, March 21st is Wyoming Primary School's Camp Read Along. So this year, the primary schools, the family literacy night is themed about camping, and it's going to be extraordinary. Doors open at 6:20. The read aloud starts at 6:30. There will be camping themed reading activities and decorations everywhere. So that is Thursday, March 21st.
Is it in the middle school?
It is at the
To bring
middle
all
school.
three
Yes.
primaries together?
Yes, it is at the middle school. And then that takes us to our next regular board meeting here on Monday, March 25th, 7 p.m. And then that takes us right up to spring break. So I thought I would mention that. That's a big one that we don't want people to forget about. So actually Friday, March 29th is a board holiday. So schools will be closed then, and then we will remain closed that next week for spring break, April 1st through April 5th.
All right.
Those are the events. Just a little reminder too, the environmental club at the high school is still doing their monthly collections for tough to recycle items. So there are barrels in the lobby, people can drop things off. In February, we are finishing up books and takeout food containers. So that'll go through Friday, and then starting March 1st, that'll go through Thursday, March 1st on Friday. They will start with packing supplies and books still. So bubble wrapping, those kinds of things.
Very cool. Thank you very much.
Your energy about the elementary school situation.
It's so excited.
Giving me
Bring my compass, my backpack. It's gonna be green. Oh my gosh, my tents.
We will enjoy. Okay, facilities.
Okay, I'll start off. Susie, right, lots going on. Susie shared, big day coming up with the community forum, March 4th, 6:30 at the high school. Really excited about that opportunity for engagement. And we are hoping to get a great turnout. We've sent communication out, we're continuing to post information online. Our hope is that people are there to learn and to be engaged and to make sure that they're informed about where we are in the process. Again, to identify the future of our primary schools to support instruction the way that our strategic plan calls for it. That's really what it's all about. So very exciting. During the conversation, we'll be talking about, our existing buildings and the issues that we're faced with our existing buildings. We'll walk through the process that we've taken over the last 2 to 3 years, the conversations that we've had that bring us to the point that we are in today. We'll talk about those master plan options that we're still considering. We talk about this idea of temporary swing space so that when construction happens, what do we do within that timeframe? And how do our students, attend school during that timeframe? So we'll talk about that. And then we'll talk about all the budget information that's critical, that has been reviewed up until this time and the implications of some of those decisions and how that works within, regard to the budget. And then next steps and what that would look like. We are posting information online. We'll be getting lots of information online this week, early this week, soon. But really, the hope is that people are there in attendance. We want people there to be part of that conversation and to hear that information and have a chance to ask questions afterward if they found anything. Anyone else would share?
And the committee will be there to answer questions, is that?
Yes, my hope is that many of those committee members will be there, the steering committee members, and I'm meeting with them tomorrow and Wednesday to talk about what that will look like, and hopefully we'll have lots of them there, and we'll introduce them and make sure that we can make a connection with them, so that if people have questions, they'll be there to support those.
Right. And then we were talking about, I know I didn't do it this morning, but just also an ongoing, because there's so many questions and then those questions keep shifting. We're talking about just having it, like an organic, frequently asked questions space at some point, that obviously what people have questions about maybe 6 months ago is a little bit different than what is being answered now, and kind of
But I think
encapsulate just the biggest.
people are in
biggest
different
ones.
places too.
Yeah.
Right.
Those who've attended every single meeting, those who are still kind of trying to figure out what they're hearing.
Right.
Sure.
And that was great, because Susie already has some of that up there, so that
Right.
people could also look at what has been discussed already, but that.
Yeah, and more will be put on this week, and then I assume that after that community forum,
Right.
we'll get more questions that just evolve
Yeah.
from all of those previous questions. Yes.
Great, all right, thank you very much.
Mhm.
Planning and goal setting, it has not met, but, the administration is certainly in its planning mode.
Right,
It's
just,
spring after all.
yep, just highlight that this is the time that we really start looking at the work that we're currently doing right now, and how does that inform future goals? Again, around the 5 pillars of our strategic plan. So we're having conversations about shifts for the 24-25 school year, and what goals and actions really help us to meet new levels of student success. So the DLT, district leadership team, you'll hear me speak about that in just a second. We'll be pulling together soon to talk about some possible options for what those goals might look like. Again, highlighting the work that we've done in the past, but just thinking about what comes next, what are those next steps to help us do better and better every day. And so our timeline usually is, we'd love to have district goals and actions set by spring break. And then after spring break, the buildings shift into gear to identify the critical goals and actions that they're going to take that are unique to the needs of the students in the high school, in the middle school, and in the primary schools. So that's the timeline that we've established. We're in good shape with that.
All right, thank you. Policy is one of the few committees that has not met.
Yeah.
So we'll go on to student achievement.
And we have not met, just the note that district leadership team meeting will be coming up. We set a date, I think we'll shift that date probably sometime next week. And again, we'll be talking about the goals for 24-25 school year. We'll be talking about this thing called Public School Works, which is where we receive a lot of our online training. And just to identify the courses that are critical, and to make sure that we're efficient with those. And then we're also talking about conference and open house plans. So
That meeting will not be Thursday.
it will not be Thursday.
Oh,
We'll get another,
okay.
maybe tonight, if not first thing in the morning.
Okay.
Yes. For those of you who are going to attend that, yes, it'll shift.
All right, the Board of Education report.
Okay, so, what I wanted to speak about is a recommendation to amend the 2023-2024 school, or district calendar. That's the calendar that we're currently working with this year.
Okay.
As you know, we've had great discussions about, a special day. This is the April 8th, solar eclipse day. So April 8th is Monday. It's the Monday after spring break. And there's a solar eclipse that's coming at 3:08 specifically. And so we've had lots of conversations where we've considered the safety of our students, knowing that our high school and our middle school students dismissed right before that at 3 o'clock. We talked about the problematic problematic situation where they're in transition, during, the eclipse itself. We talked about family flexibility and we talked about the uniqueness of the event and many of our families are interested in doing something special, for that. So we considered, an early release, we considered, just having a normal school day. But as I reflect on all of those different considerations and knowing that there's an increasing call for family flexibility during that time, I wanted to bring a recommendation for a change to the school calendar, which changes Monday, April 8th to a professional development day for staff, where students would not be in attendance. That would give families that flexibility. We would not have concerns around safety for students. Our staff members would be able to engage in, I just spoke to the goal setting process. Our plan for that day would be to come back after spring break and staff would be fully engaged in goal setting on a building level aspect. And so that's the recommendation I wanted to make. Happy to talk about that. We've talked about, what we learned from our PAC teams is there was differences based on age, on what PAC recommendations were. One of the recommendations that came out of those groups was though that they wanted safety goggles for students, regardless of what the plans were for that day. So we've got that. Thanks to our foundation, they supplied us with safety goggles for all of our students and our staff members that would be used. It keeps within the structure of our calendar in terms of the number of days that students need to have, the number of days that staff need to have. And so it falls in line with all of those calendar considerations.
Our contract with the teachers in terms of professional days, that is also.
Yes, calls for no more than 7, and that would be 7.
So that would.
Is there gonna be any planned, either from the city or the schools, any kind of planned gathering, like, I don't know, meeting down at the Oak Park or the football field or?
Yeah, I don't know of anything at the time. I think what we wanted to do is we wanted to set a plan for what this day would look like first. And then knowing what the day would look like, then if there were any potential opportunities, we could work around that.
I have seen things in Butler County, and
Right.
almost all Butler County schools are closed
Mhm.
that day.
Okay. so-
And then the cities are doing, like, the city of Oxford, the city of Hamilton have big programs going. Houston Wood State Park has a big program going.
And we saw changes in Butler County first, I think, because they're more in the line of the total
Right,
eclipse.
they're closer to the.
And so there was a concern for safety even on
Right.
highways and
Right.
the traffic in and of itself.
Well, traffic will be impossible.
Mhm. Right.
Maybe not, just
I know we've
challenge.
been talking about this for a long time. What shifted the call to have us not have school over the previous discussions and all the different opinions and.
I think one of the biggest challenges is the struggle of an early release on families. And knowing that it's connected to spring break, we thought this might give the most flexibility for families, and it's tough. When there might be families traveling somewhere and then coming back for a partial day is a challenging situation, I think, on families. We know that before and after school program would not be running in the afternoon if it was a shortened day. So that was an additional challenge for families that needed that. That this would be the best way for families to plan. And the other thing that was a little bit of a struggle was it seemed that an early dismissal might work for some, but not work for others. And then when you're considering 2 different plans for staff and for families, that was a struggle too.
And you've had conversations with the PAC, you've had conversations with the teachers, and so we have different points of view, or, we've heard all kinds of.
Dixon's gonna just be staying the whole day.
Mhm.
This is, because it's a calendar change, this would sit for 30 days. So,
I don't know that this would need to.
oh, okay.
Right.
Ooh, okay, because it's not contractual.
Yeah, it would fall,
Within
since it
the- within the
falls within the contract, yeah,
Okay,
we're able to
alright.
do it. Mhm. Let's see, the next meeting, our planning meeting is, what's our market planning meeting? It's March 12th or 13th, but I think the challenge is for families to know what the decision is and be able to work with that
Right.
and plan around it.
Well,
And also the rec center might offer a schools out kind of
Yeah, maybe.
situation.
Mhm.
Just picture some little child at home by themselves and it goes dark.
Just as long as they don't look up.
Don't
look at it.
And we are learning of changes that are being made really within the last week or two from lots of districts around, and it runs the gamut. It's, you know, there's lots of different ways to look at it.
All right, thank you. Are there further discussion? And may I have a motion to approve the Board of Education report? So moved. May I have a second?
Second.
May I have a roll call?
Mr. Thomas? Mrs. G? Yes. Mrs. Zoller?
Yes.
Mrs. Broderick? Yes. Mr. Bellmeyer?
Yes.
Great, thank you. Treasurer's report.
Thanks, Jeannie. Item A, approval of the minutes from the January 22nd regular meeting and the February 13th planning meeting. Item B, approve the statement of revenues and expenditures for month ending January 31st. Item C, accept with appreciation the list of donations there. You will see those solar eclipse glasses. So thanks to the foundation we do have those glasses in hand, so I'm sure a plan is forthcoming to get those out to students and families. And then, a healthy donation from PSA. This is part of the annual allocation when PSA holds their meeting in the fall and they approve that list. They disperse these funds to us as we spend them. So this is a reimbursement. So this, you'll see, a few more of these as we keep moving through the school year.
This is amazing. I kind of added up, it was over $60,000 in donations on our list tonight. Thank you to two strong groups, the Wyoming School Foundation and the Wyoming PSA, but there are others listed here. We thank them.
Item D, the appropriation adjustments for the month of February, and item E, approval of the report, please.
Okay, thank you. May I have a motion to approve that report?
So moved.
Second? I'll second. May I have a roll call?
Mr. G?
Yes.
Mrs. Zoller?
Yes.
Mrs. Broderick?
Yes.
Mr. Bellmeyer?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas? Thank you.
All right, thank you. The superintendent's report.
Okay. First of all, we have several personnel recommendations. Number one is a recommendation to approve a resignation for the purpose of retirement. And that is for Janet Bingley. And Janet is, she'll be retiring at the end of the year. She's working in our primary schools right now. So just wanted to give you a little bit of background on Janet. She started here in 2012 as a primary school literacy resource specialist. And she's continued in the primary school throughout her time here in Wyoming. I knew Janet before her time in Wyoming, and I knew she was an exceptional teacher. So I knew Wyoming was getting a great product when she came here. She's also been a member of the intervention assistance team and a primary school department chair. So we are really excited for Janet. And it's not on the agenda, but I wanted to take just a moment to say congratulations also to Jenny Burgess, who's the administrative assistant at Vermont Primary School. We approved her retirement for her resignation for the purpose of retirement during the planning meeting. She will again also work through the remainder of the year. She's a Wyoming high school graduate from the class of 1980. Started her employment with Wyoming City Schools in 1999. She's worked in the middle school and primary buildings and has held the positions of educational aide, library aide, health aide, and building administrative assistant. So super excited for both of those two and wish them well.
I had the great pleasure of working with Jennifer for
Nice.
many years.
Wonderful.
Absolutely great person.
Okay, number two is a recommendation to approve these staff members for their work at, to prepare for and participate in the kindergarten welcome days. Number three is a recommendation to approve an athletic worker. And I believe I'm going to number five now.
Correct.
Mhm. So number five is recommendation to approve athletic volunteer, one that you can see there for track. And then item B, we have several overnight field trips to, for recommendation. So one is the middle school Power of the Pen tournament. One is the high school marching band camp. And then the one that we received on the blue sheets that came in today, the DECA Career Development Conference. All incredible opportunities for students, and we cannot thank our staff members enough for dedicating the time to support students in those very unique ways. Super exciting.
All right, thank you. May I have a motion to approve that part of the superintendent's report?
So moved.
Second. And may I have a roll call?
Mrs. Zoller?
Yes.
Mrs. Broderick?
Yes. Mr. Bellmeyer?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Mrs. Jean?
Yes. Okay, thank you. Superintendent's report A4.
Okay, so this is a recommendation to approve these athletic supplemental contracts. These are all for spring sports in athletics.
Thank you. May I have a motion to approve that?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
May I have a roll call?
Mrs. Broderick? Yes. Mr. Bellmeyer?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Mrs. Jean?
Yes.
Mrs. Dollar?
Abstain. Thank you. Superintendent's update.
And I just, it seems fitting to talk about community engagement, with engagement during the board meeting tonight. From people speaking and from our CAC presenting, from students in the audience, just getting a peek at what happens at a board meeting. Community engagement is what makes Wyoming so special. The people is what makes Wyoming so special. And so this really just connects to our community forum. We talked a lot about facilities, and I'm just super excited about the next opportunity for community engagement to happen with regard to something that's very, very important for us, our primary facilities. So hopefully, again, we'll get lots and lots of people there in attendance for that. But community engagement is just huge in Wyoming City Schools, and I think it's what makes us so very special.
Thank you. Before we adjourn, gentlemen in the audience, the Boy Scouts, is there something you'd like to ask us? Anything you want to know?
Let's see, Berkey and Cliff's conversation.
That might come up.
If other schools close through the eclipse, would that impact Wyoming?
Well, I think we just made a decision tonight that we are going to be closed for students. Our staff members will be here. Our staff will be here for professional development. And you just might be the very first students to know this, as you go back to school tomorrow. So,
Yeah.
Are we allowed to tell everybody?
Yes.
you can, because you actually, you can. So you are in the know.
Of a Board of Education meeting is that it is an open meeting. You've heard us vote tonight. We don't ever do anything in secret, so you can take the information you have. Now, we will okay the minutes in a month, so it takes a little bit longer for us to make it officially on the schedule.
And I will
There
race
it
you to try to get information out as soon as I can, but I don't think I'll beat you. That's a great question. We've had students,
When's the last student that you guys did?
I'm trying to think back to when the last students were here.
I don't know if you do that, but we used to have high school,
Yes. Yeah,
high school students district and
Yeah, that's true.
required a class. But we don't often have many primary and middle school
Right.
students visiting, so that's pretty exciting.
Yeah, one of the things- Right, one of the things that we do now in January and in May, we do recognize students differently. And so we will have lots of students in attendance then. But to listen to the entire meeting and to think about the actions that are being discussed and taken during the conversation doesn't happen often. So nice to have you here.
To still be sitting here at 8:30 on a school night.
That's
right.
right.
I'm proud of them.
It's okay.
All right, thank you. Is there anything else? All right, then may I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
May I have a roll call?
Mr. Bellmeyer?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas? Mrs. Jean?
Yes.
Mrs. Dollar?
Yes.
Broderick?
All right, we are adjourned.